What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the big day. If you are in the Great Plains, if you're in the Midwest, tomorrow is the big day. And if you're in New England, if you're in the East Coast, Sunday is your big day for this big snow system that's going to be rampaging across much of the country this weekend. So we have 230 million people that are going to be impacted by this. So there are 230 million reasons that we're going to go ahead and share everything that we have on this. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it right here. So starting off right here, we have some model runs pulled up for you right here. There is currently light snow falling in parts of Kansas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma right now. That is only expected to ramp up further as the hours go on. So we're going to be using modeling to kind of give you an idea of when exactly it's going to ramp up and when exactly it's going to be moving through much of the country. Really starting to set up and develop from pretty much Montana all the way down to the Texas Panhandle. And then as you get later into the afternoon, into the night, you start seeing some mountain snow developing in Colorado and New Mexico as this low pressure system starts to ramp up. You also have this high pressure system moving into parts of the Midwest, particularly Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. That is going to continue to bring really cold temperatures. The temperature has already really plummeted down a good 20 to 30 degrees in the last 24 hours. Across much of the Midwest. So that's something you're going to want to consider as well. But as time goes on, you start seeing the system really get its act together. It doesn't start really ramping up until around 7 to 8 o'clock Central Time tonight. And then as we get to the overnight hours, things really start blowing up across Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Kansas, with the Texas Panhandle seeing significant snowfall, while the majority of Texas does see freezing rain and sleet over here, with rain possible further to the south. And then as the system starts to move further to the east in the overnight hours, it starts to move right into the Midwest, particularly Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, into Kentucky, Indiana, and those regions as well. So that's something you're going to want to watch out for. And like I said before, at least in the Midwest, we're going to be seeing the system coming in two waves, although the waves are less like it's going to stop and then it's going to ramp up again. It's more so it's going to be a heavy system at first, then it's going to calm down with light snow, and that's going to ramp up again on Sunday morning. So that's what we're dealing with now. Going into Saturday morning, you have snow starting to fall in the St. Louis area around 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning, and at least Central Time, and then it moves into Indianapolis by 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And then as the system starts to get its act together, you start seeing a second round of snow really starting to turn up and really starting to develop in parts of Texas and Oklahoma. This is because that there's Gulf moisture in this that's going to kick in, and that's going to really generate more energy and give this system enough moisture to produce more snowfall as the system starts moving further to the east, and it's not going to run out of fuel anytime soon. And then by the time we get to Saturday night, it's going to start leveling out in parts of the St. Louis area into Chicago and Springfield and Illinois. And then by late Saturday night going into Sunday morning, not only does the snow start to really turn up in much of the mid-Atlantic region, it then starts to turn up again in much of the Midwest as the heavier snow bands really start to move into parts of the Midwest right here on that backside that's going to be moving and progressing over the next several hours. And then as we get to Sunday morning, it does start to taper off in Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Illinois as the system pushes further to the east, and then really starts to move into areas like Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and then New England could potentially see some pretty significant snowfall from this. I've seen totals in excess of 20 inches across a lot of these areas that we're going to want to pay attention to as the system becomes a nor'easter and then exits the United States as the temperatures continue to plummet across much of the country. So that's what we're seeing, at least according to the North American model. In terms of what we're seeing in the South, which is what I'm really concerned about, we're seeing significant icing expected across this region. And then as we start going into Friday night, going into Saturday, we see a lot of sleet and a lot of freezing rain starting to set up in southern Oklahoma, Texas, particularly Dallas, Fort Worth, and then again in parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, most of Tennessee, a lot of Georgia, and the Carolinas by Saturday morning, going into throughout all day Saturday, when the system really starts to ramp up in intensity and produce those significant snowfalls. And not just there, but also the significant icing. We are likely to see over an inch of ice in some areas, particularly in Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi. Those are where the highest estimates are expected to be. It's going to be a very destructive storm down there. It's going to be quite powerful. And it's definitely something that you're going to want to continue to pay attention to moving forward. So that's what we're dealing with in terms of the freezing rain aspect of it. And I've said this before, and I will say this again. If you are in the Deep South and you are expecting ice, do not travel. It's better that you have a foot of snow rather than an inch of ice, because with snow, you at least can drive in it, and at least it's somewhat manageable that you can drive in it, because snow has some friction to it. Ice has zero friction to it because of the laws of physics. And because of that threat right there, just a tenth of an inch of ice can pretty much ice over a road and make it impassable in some rural areas. A quarter of an inch of ice can down power lines and pretty much cause a lot of accidents on interstates and quite frankly, anywhere for that case. And you do not want to be in the middle of a slip and slide road when the ice storm hits. So that's what we're paying attention to moving forward. So that's what we're looking at. In terms of what's going on further to the south, rain is possible on top of this freezing rain as well. It's just going to be a jack of all trades with a lot of wintry mix, although some snow is possible now on the backside of this for the Deep South, particularly in Mississippi, Alabama. Some flurries are possible with this now, so that we're going to want to pay attention to it. So that's what we're dealing with at this current point. That's your North American model. In terms of what we're seeing with the wrap right here, this one of your more short-range models, let's go ahead and pull this up. The 15Z run right here, showing a pretty significant snowfall across Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Then as we get to Saturday morning, the system starts to move into the Midwest while bringing across Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, going into Alabama. If you are especially in northern Mississippi, the northern half of Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi north, you're going to want to stay at home. Today is probably your last day to prepare. It is strongly advised that you do not travel, because at this point, everyone's going to be panicking. People are wondering, oh, should we need to get out of here, go see family elsewhere? No, just prepare, hunker down. You'll get through that. It'll be okay. But as we go into Saturday night and going into Sunday, freezing rain becomes very widespread across the Deep South. In fact, almost the entire state of Texas is seeing freezing rain from this, according to our short-range forecasts right here. Anywhere from Dallas-Fort Worth down to Austin, all the way to San Angelo, all the way to Lubbock, Abilene, a lot of those areas right there, especially in West Texas, that do not typically see this type of weather at this current point, is that we're going to want to pay attention to. With that freezing rain going as far south as Louisiana, the entire northern half of Louisiana is going to be seeing freezing rain. Shreveport could see significant icing with this right here, but the worst of the freezing rain, it appears, is going to be in Mississippi and Tennessee, especially going into Saturday night into Sunday morning, as the system starts to move further out and time continues to go on. The ice starts to move into the Carolinas and then into Virginia and West Virginia over here, while that backside starts to develop and brings significant icing on the backside to Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, with it starting to move into Alabama throughout the day. So that's what we're looking at right here. Taking a look at our freezing rain accumulation. This is pretty significant right here. Now, do I know if this is going to be like 2.5 inches of ice? I hope not, because this is horrifically not good right here. Like almost 3 inches of ice is catastrophic right here. You can't really do anything with that. The only thing you could really do is probably skate to where you're going, if you even have ice skates. And I don't think there's very many skating rinks in the Deep South or lakes that freeze very often. So this is just going to be causing havoc. And on top of that, this is going to down power lines, just completely make roads impassable. It's going to down a ton of trees. It's going to cause so much damage throughout all of this. Like, this is where the worst impacts are going to be in terms of your snow system. I'm not so concerned about the snow as I am the ice. The ice is going to be absolutely catastrophic with this. Again, we're still seeing possibly up to 3 inches of ice according to some models right here. Now, do I think it's a realistic setup? I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But ultimately, what we got to pay attention to is just when is this system going to be moving through? How bad is it going to impact? It's going to be it's going to be bad. That's all I can say about this. And if you're in Jackson, if you're in Shreveport, if you're in Little Rock, if you're in Memphis, you're going to need to hunker down for this. Same if you're in Nashville, Knoxville, the Atlanta area, you're going to need to take this super seriously, and going into the Carolinas as well. Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston could also be really impacted by this. Houston, in particular, according to the RAP, seeing potentially 2/3 of an inch of ice. Do I think Houston's going to see 2/3 of an inch of ice? I don't know. That seems a little excessive to me. But I would not rule out maybe a 1/2 inch of ice at most for the Houston area. Regardless, that is a metro area of 4 million plus people getting winter weather that they do not typically see. The last time they got winter weather of this caliber was in the 2025 Gulf Coast storm, when they got a few inches of snow, not almost an inch of ice. And before that was the Texas snowstorm in 2021, which completely shut off the entire electrical grid in the state of Texas for quite a while. That caused a lot of issues for a lot of people right here. Let's go ahead and zoom out now, and let's go ahead and take a look at snow accumulations for this as well. These are the short-range snow accumulations for right here, according to the RAP. We're going to shift over to the NAM to give you a bigger picture, just to see what's maybe happening across much of the United States. So here's your snow accumulation. Oklahoma, it's basically universally established that at this current point, according to all the models, central Oklahoma particularly is going to see up to 18 inches of snow. On the eastern side, up to 20 inches are possible, especially as you move into the Ozarks as well. In areas, if we zoom into the Midwest, like St. Louis and Indianapolis, they're going to get hammered by this, potentially up to 10 inches of snow for St. Louis and Indianapolis. Right here. Chicago sees 3 to 5 inches of snow, not counting the lake effect. Ohio, you are really going to get a lot of snow for this, especially if you're in the Appalachian regions and south of Columbus right here. If you're in Cincinnati, you could see up to 15 inches of snow. Same thing with Louisville, Kentucky, another area that does not typically see this much snowfall. And then as we move to the Mid-Atlantic region, it's not really going to be so much snow for Washington, D.C. Instead, it's going to be a ton of ice. Let's go ahead and show the freezing rain accumulation right here. We're going to see quite a bit of ice, especially to the south of D.C. Potentially up to a 1/2 inch of ice is possible all the way until New Jersey over here. And let's go ahead and now show the snow accumulation with this too. But if you're in DC, a good 6 inches of snow are possible. The models have shifted further up to the north as time has went on. Same thing with Baltimore, but that snowfall is going to be replaced with freezing rain. And then if you're in Pennsylvania, New York, northern New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, you are in for the jugular. This is going to impact almost 100 million people in those states alone right here in terms of snowfall. The entire east 2/3 of the United States gets some sort of impacts from the snow system, but at least in terms of the jugular of snow, it's going to be concentrated in all these states right here. If you're in Philadelphia, you could see up to 8 inches of snow. Let me show you the freezing rain line right here that's going to be so critical. If you're in southern Bucks County, you're going to see up to 7 inches of snow. If you're in northern Bucks County, you could see up to 17 inches of snow. That is how concentrated this line is. And if that sets up even 30 miles further to the south, you're going to see a scenario in which Philadelphia could see up to 15 inches of snow. It's a very borderline case. right here. If you're in New York City, you're a bit further out from it, but still, looking at this from Staten Island, 13 inches of snow, potentially up to 15 inches in the Bronx, so not as bad. Boston could see up to 2 feet of snow from this. Same thing with Connecticut and Rhode Island. In fact, the entire southern part of New England could be seeing all this snowfall. You're going to want to take this incredibly seriously moving through right here. And then as we move towards other parts like Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, take a look at this. We are looking at at least in the southern part of Vermont, up to 2 feet of snow in the mountains. But then even as we get into Maine and New Hampshire right here, still a foot of snow is possible. But as you get more towards the northern part of the state, those snow levels do start to taper off quite a bit as the system's going to be exiting the United States at that current point. But my goodness, things continue to escalate from here, and this is just definitely something we're going to want to watch out for moving forward. So that's what we're seeing with this big snow system that's moving through much of the United States. On top of that, you're going to be seeing extreme cold moving through the United States that's going to be persisting for the next 10 days at least after this system. So here's what we got. You have all these temperatures plunging across much of the U.S., and then as we get to the end of the weekend and into Monday morning, temperatures as far south as Texas are going to be in single digits. In areas like the Midwest, you're going to see a lot of negatives across a lot of these regions right here. And then as you move into Wednesday right here, it does start to weaken a little bit, but it's still very expansive. As far south as Tampa Bay could be seeing the freezing line from this. And then as we get to Thursday and then Friday, and then as we move into next weekend, you do start seeing those temperatures starting to level off a little bit. And then as time goes on, it does start to weaken a bit more, especially as we get into early February, and that's when things start to calm down a little bit more. But we also need to pay attention to something else that I'm keeping an eye on, and that is there is another potential snow system that might be impacting the Deep South after this. I've been looking at some of the runs. I've been talking to some people behind the scenes. There's also been some people behind the scenes talking about this as well, especially posting about on social media too. But here's what we got for you guys going on right here. Let's go ahead and show you precip type. This is going to be our next system, potentially starting in about 6 days. So you have another system starting to get its act together around January 29th. This is what we have going on right here. For the Deep South, you're going to want to watch out for this because this is for you guys. You're going to start seeing another snow system starting to develop around the 29th and 30th in Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana, and then really move through parts of the Deep South with the low pressure system actually staying all pretty much over the Gulf Coast right here, staying over the Gulf. And it's going to remain that way for quite some time. And according to this, as well as other models I've seen, including the European and the Icon and several others, you're going to start seeing significant snowfall possible for a lot of areas in the Deep South. So if you're in the Deep South seeing this insane amount of ice that you're going to get, you're not out of the woods yet, because on top of that, you're in line to potentially see quite a lot of snow from this as well. And this is once again in an area that does not get these kind of impacts very often. So that's what we're dealing with here too. And then as you have the system moving through, really starting to intensify over the Gulf right here, it really brings a lot of snowfall to a lot of states in the Deep South like Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, and going into Virginia as we get to early February right here. Keep in mind, this is 9+ days out at this point. A lot is subject to change. We saw a big storm hitting the Deep South a few days ago. That shifted a lot to the north to impact the Midwest. But then as we get to areas in the mid-Atlantic, this does turn into a potential nor'easter as time goes on. By the time we get to February 2nd, another big snowstorm potentially impacts you guys right there as you're just starting to clean up from this one. So that's something that we're going to want to watch out for, and that is definitely something we're going to continue to keep you updated on here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. I'm also going to keep you updated on how the system's progressing. And if you do want to share some footage to me for my shorts and my reels, be sure to let me know in my Instagram DMs and go ahead and send that to me. I'll credit you in the description. Also, be sure to join the Storms Unite Discord server if you want any help, if you want to ask some questions. The link to that will be in the end screen. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.